Hey, this is Endrick. I'm a Terran player in Platinum League Division 1, and I'm doing my first audio commentary today. I've had commentaries done on my games in the past in Warcraft 3, but I've never actually been the audio guy myself, so this should be interesting. My opponent today is a Protoss player named Cruncher, who's ranked number 2 within his own respective Platinum Division. If you're watching this commentary, I suggest that you set it to 720p for the resolution, and you should probably watch it in full screen. Otherwise you're going to miss out on some of the details of the little micro wars that happen later on. You can see right now that the usual scouting and chasing is going on inside my base. As Terran, you never want to let a probe run around unsupervised in your base, because he might set up a pylon and do the dreaded proxy pylon rush. Even though the proxy rush has gotten nerfed in the past couple of patches, it's still potent enough that you have to watch out for it. If the Protoss player does manage to set up in your base undetected, as Terran you've pretty much lost the game already at that point, before the game's really even started. So even if that probe is just seemingly spinning circles around your base, you still have to send an SCV to follow him, because he may throw down a pylon, circle back around, throw down a gateway, or just have the pylon go up and warp units into it. Either way, it's crucial that you watch what's going on and you don't let that probe out of your sight, even though it's going to cost some minerals for that SCV to chase him around in circles, because you're not using him to mine or to scout. It's still worth it to make sure that you don't get a pylon set up in your base. If you do see a pylon go up in your base, early on in the game before you have Marines, what you're gonna need to do is send several workers over there to kill it, like maybe 3 or 4 workers. And if he sets up a pylon and a gateway in your base early on, just kill the pylon and leave the gateway. If the Protoss player is dumb enough to let the gateway finish and you kill the pylon, then he's essentially out 50 minerals, because there's nothing to power the gateway. So anyways, you can see here I put a supply depot in the back of my base to keep an eye on these destructible rocks, and my opponent did the same to see if I'm breaking through his destructible rocks. It's kind of an early warning. A minute ago I was scouting around his base with an SCV, and I saw that he was going some sort of a Templar build, so at this point I know that I need to go Ghosts. Ghosts are a good choice against Protoss no matter what you're doing, if you have the resources to go for Ghosts and the time to do it, but they're especially potent against High Templar. In fact, if they have High Templar, you have to have Ghosts, otherwise his Psionic Storm is going to win the game for him. So I'm actually teching quite quickly here to both air and ghosts at the same time. I'm planning on getting Banshees and Ghosts, and I'm throwing in some tanks too. You can see that I'm not going a very heavy infantry build against Protoss. I don't like going heavy infantry against Protoss unless I'm doing an all-out rush on them at some early stage in the game, because once they get to Colossus, your infantry are just going to get trashed. Even if you have some Vikings to counter the Colossus, you're probably not going to kill them fast enough, and the Colossus is going to take out all your infantry. So tanks is kind of a bit of a safe play against Protoss, because tanks aren't quite as susceptible to Colossus. You know, there's fewer tanks for the same amount of firepower as, say, Marauders, and they tend to spread out more because they're larger units, so the Colossus isn't going to hit as many of them at the same time. And even though Marauders are more cost-effective against general ground troops, I just don't like to use them too much against Protoss because of the Colossus threat, and also the High Templar threat. High Templar destroy infantry much faster than they do tanks. You can see here that my SCV is kind of dancing around just to keep the Protoss player occupied for, you know, as much as I can. Protoss player expanded. He's got quite a few zealots up, and he's got a couple of High Templar out, and at this point he's already researched Psionic Storm. I'm also expoing now because I saw his, so I know I have to, if I'm not going to attack right now, then I have to match his expo with my own to stay competitive in the game. I'm choosing to play defensively because I did tech so quickly, and down multiple tech paths. So at this point, I kind of need to wait to catch up to my tech and get a few units out. I don't even have any Banshees out yet, so I need to get them out. Get a couple of ghosts out before I'd be ready to push. So right here, the Stalker is about to actually finish off the destructible rocks in the back of my base. So I have to come over here and get rid of him. Since I have siege tanks and I actually bother to research siege mode in this game, which I don't do sometimes just because a lot of other games at high level are actually so fast that you don't even bother with siege mode. You have to be so mobile, and the fights happen earlier than you don't even want to waste the money on that sometimes. But anyways, because I have siege tanks, I want to know where the fight's taking place, so I make sure that they don't break through the back of my base, because then my siege mode tank's lack of mobility is going to bite me. Right now I keep sending out Marines to keep an eye on my on the Protoss, because what's about to happen is basically it's going to be a race to see if I can hit his High Templar with EMP before he can hit my units with Psionic Storm. So I need to kind of keep an eye on him. Here he comes. I'm going to slow it down for just a second. You can see my ghost shoot an EMP to try to take out the High Templar. I hit 3 of the 4 High Templar with that shot, but this guy right here I actually missed, and he was able to get off 1 Psionic Storm. But I did hit a bunch of zealots with that EMP, so that's why those zealots went down even quicker than they would have otherwise. But that EMP effectively countered most of the High Templar. Right here, the Protoss player does an excellent move right there with that Psionic Storm. He actually caught me coming up the ramp when I was kind of stuck against the terrain right there and didn't have a lot of room to maneuver. And he quickly took out a bunch of my units with that Psi Storm. If he hadn't done that right there, he actually would have lost the game right here, because I would have had enough units to just finish him off. But it's turning into a scrappy battle instead, because he was able to pull off that